Hi guys, welcome to another episode of MrLopezClasses.com. This is the chapter 7 of our gasoline engines class. In this chapter we have two episodes. The episode number 1, the previous one, was about the exhaust manifolds of inboard engines, gasoline engines. In this episode, this is the episode number 2, we are going to talk about the exhaust gases, the exhaust pipe, the mufflers for outboards. How is the administration of the gases in outboards, 2 strokes and 4 strokes. If you remember, in outboards we have normally 4 cylinders in line, or V6 or V4. Those are the most common configurations that we have in outboards. V 90 degrees or 120 degrees depending of the manufacturer. The engine is located in the top, according with the picture that we have over there. And the middle section is an area dedicated only to the administration of raw water and gases. And the lower unit is basically the transmission, or the gearbox, or the gear case. We have power head, middle section, and lower unit. In the middle section, of course, we have cavities for the movement of the gases, and other cavities for the movement of the raw water. Remember that the raw water pump is located in between the lower unit and the middle section. And in between the power unit and the middle section, we have an important gasket. In some engines, it's a gasket. In other engines are O-rings. Those gaskets, those O-rings are critical. If not, probably you have this situation. Look at the engine leaking water when the engine is running. It's because the gasket in between the power head and the middle unit is leaking. This is not good. This is what is the recommendation in that particular case. Remove the engine, separate the engine like this, separate the engine, and replace the O-rings or replace the gasket, and verify if the middle section is cracked. Is possible. Let me check the recommendations of Mr. Rodriguez in this particular video. Danny, we are going to analyze today the middle section, where the exhaust gases are manipulated.
Correct.
In the middle section we have gases, exhaust gases, and we have raw water.
Raw water.
Raw water. Is possible that the middle section be cracked?
Yes, absolutely. Usually, especially if a lack of water, it'll get too hot, it'll crack.
Okay.
Crack the aluminum.
Oh yeah, it's because differential of temperature.
Correct.
Okay, and it's common.
Yes, it is common, especially when overheating.
All right. Okay. Now we remove the engine. What about the ports here on the bottom of the?
Okay, so these are actually machine ports, but you have actually where the exhaust comes in, and you have the water that comes in. So in the lower unit, the water pushes up, comes through here, circulates through the block, and then comes out through the exhaust. And then you have dump offs on the exhaust adapter that actually is from the side of the block.
Only to refresh for our students, this is the seal of the crankshaft.
It's the lower main seal.
This is the seal that produces a lot of
headaches. Because what happens is this leaks, then all the oil leaks out of the crankcase, and then
the oil is mixed with the gases.
Yeah,
and that.
absolutely.
All right. Okay. This is a very common problem. Okay. In other words, what about this?
Those are water ports.
The water ports.
Because in the housing, you'll see there's little jackets that the water actually feeds through there. So they use O-rings to actually seal it.
Okay, this is the back face of the engine.
Yeah, this is the bottom part of the engine, and then the exhaust adapters when you adapt the power head to the midsection.
Okay, what about this gasket? Is it a special gasket?
Yeah, actually they don't even use a gasket on this.
No, because
O-rings.
they have the O-rings. All right.
Correct.
And other models use gaskets.
Use gaskets. Most of them use gaskets.
The majority.
Some are metal gaskets. Some are like a fiber gaskets. There's many.
Similar to the exhaust manifold gasket in inboard.
Correct. And in the picture, I'll show you the different gaskets that we have.
The other ones. All right, perfect. Now we are going to analyze the top of the middle section.
Okay.
Okay, Danny. Now we are in front of the middle section. Exhaust gases for one port, for one bank, and the other bank.
Correct.
Okay, and this is the raw water.
Raw water.
The raw water. And what about this?
Now you have different hoses that are dump offs that when the water goes into the block it circulates. And then you have water that goes to what this is called a poppet valve or a blowout valve.
Ah, poppet. This is the famous poppet valve.
Poppet valve, or they call it a blowout valve. Either
Correct.
one. And the idea of this is when the pressure exceeds a certain amount, this actually redirects the water flow to the exhaust or in the block.
Oh, in other words, it's possible that the raw water return into the block.
Yes.
Depending on
the pressure, or it dumps off into the exhaust.
Oh, wonderful.
And there's different versions of it. If you look at the other video, there's another version of that.
Danny, we mentioned before about the poppet valve, and you said that there is another model.
Yes.
What is that one?
Yeah, this is the other model. So the other one was built in the exhaust system.
Correct.
This is actually put on top of the power head that goes to one set of thermostats and then to the other set of thermostats. Same principle applies. At low speed, there should be no leaks and it should run the water. But once you're at high speed and the pressure builds up, it redirects the water flow through the thermostat housing.
Okay.
So one side goes to one side of the thermostat housing, and the other side comes on the other side of the thermostat housing.
Perfect. Perfect. And it's not necessarily located close to the lower unit?
No, this is actually mounted on top of the unit.
On top. Oh, okay. All right. And it's a poppet valve. This is exclusive for some models, or?
Well, every engine has different versions of poppet valve, blowout valves. Everyone calls them blowout valves, but there's different versions. Some are built on the exhaust, like you saw. Mercury has it built on the exhaust as well, and this one just happens to be mounted on top.
And I saw that a couple of nuts. Is possible replace the diaphragm?
Absolutely, these are serviceable.
You order the kit, you replace the diaphragm, and that's
Even the one in the exhaust system is also serviceable.
If you have the part number.
And there's the part,
the part number there. All right, perfect. And this is the bracket to bolt it on the block. All right. Danny, what is the symptom when this valve is clogged?
Okay, so this actually has two different problems. If this is leaking at low speed, the engine is going to run too cold, causing an enriching problem, fouling out plugs.
Can you repeat, please?
So when this is leaking at low RPMs, you're going to have problems that'll run too cold. The engine will run too cold, causing too much of a richness. You'll see black smoke.
Black smoke. Wonderful, because the poppet valve.
Correct. Now, if this is stuck, and what happens is at high speed, it'll affect you. It'll give you an overheat because there's too much pressure and it can't release the pressure.
I have a ridiculous question. If I am in the middle of the ocean with problem with this valve, can I remove that valve
Well, I would say if you're in dire straits, probably you can manipulate it, but you're better off not, because I mean, like I said, let's say if it's leaking at low speed, you just can't go slow. You just got to keep going faster wherever you got to go.
Oh, okay.
Now, if it's high speed issue, then you're gonna have to do the reverse. You can manipulate it, but you're better off. And this is in an area that you would have to dismantle a lot of things to get to it, so you're not gonna really be able to touch it.
Correct. Oh, wonderful. Danny, I am analyzing how important are the O-rings in this system, no?
Yes.
Because we don't have gasket.
No gasket.
We have basically O-rings.
O-rings everywhere.
Okay.
And that's just to keep seal areas that are specifically need to be sealed.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Nice. We have those O-rings.
Right.
Exhaust port.
And you notice they do use a RTV just to on the surface areas where the exhaust is.
Only
just
for
extra seal.
Yeah, extra seal. Okay. Some recommendations when you put in back the engine with respect to the dry shaft grease.
Yes, absolutely. You should always put grease on the splines.
Okay.
What happens is if you don't, you get salt water in there and it'll actually corrode, build up salt, and then one day you want to take the lower unit off and it won't come out.
Oh yeah. Danny, that's the poppet valve.
That's the poppet valve.
Okay, right. And that's the return. What about those fittings?
So one fitting is going to be for the exhaust pressure.
Exhaust gases pressure.
All right. And then the other one's a dump off for the DPS, which is digital power steering, which we'll discuss in another video.
Oh, digital power steering.
Yeah, this actually has a digital power steering built into the system.
Oh, that one.
Yep, and these are all the wires. This one we're just hooking up now.
Yeah, we are going to explain in another episode that system.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, this is for the power steering.
Power steering dump off for the water because it cools the system down, and this is the exhaust pressure.
Exhaust pressure. Okay, perfect. Danny, the exhaust gases of one bank, two banks converge in this pipe.
Correct. This is the exhaust adapter, and it converts to the final pipe that goes through
and enters here. And in this section, goes directly into the middle of the propeller.
Correct. You can actually see the prop, the carrier.
Oh yeah,
carrier
of course. This is the perfect. We have exhaust gases over there all the time, and goes out.
Exhaust and water.
Danny, in outboards, we have muffler.
In some cases we do. This one actually does. You actually have a muffler here that helps the noise level to a certain degree, and also keeps. It's basically if you open this up, there's like a big sponge, so the exhaust comes in, and it's quieted down, and then it overflow with the water, just like the lift system on an inboard.
In other words, this is the typical two-stroke outboard engine with no noise.
With no noise, very little noise,
and zero pollution because it's electronic controlled.
This thing is EPA approved for California, US, and Europe.
Correct.
Right out of the box.
That's the muffler. This is the output of the muffler. This is the muffler. You disassemble the muffler, Danny. Oh,
yeah.
That's the sponge.
Water comes in, the exhaust comes in. You see, it muffles the sound out, and once it gets filled, it gets expelled out to the top.
I never seen a muffler with a sponge internally.
Yep, this one hasn't.
No, that's incredible. This is the muffler used in the E-Tech Evinrude 2 strokes. You see the accumulation of
the exhaust.
And it's possible to replace the sponge now?
Yes, every once in a while you do, because what happens is this builds up with carbon, becomes really heavy.
Okay.
And then it doesn't filter anymore.
Yeah.
But it would have to be a very long time for that to happen.
In that case, you order this element,
complete element,
and you replace
because it's a sealed unit, just like this. So there's not really you can replace it. You just replace the whole assembly.
Oh yeah, perfect. This is the muffler for outboards Evinrude 2-stroke engine.
Correct.
And this is an other muffler for other model, but
Yes.
it's the same, no?
It's the same principle with the foam. The only difference is just for a G2 model. This is for a Generation 1 model.
Okay, but it's basically the same.
Same thing.
Once again, you order the element and you replace the element completely.
Absolutely.
No internally.
No, there's no replacement. There's no fixing it. It's just replacing.
I suppose that this is not expensive.
No, they're relatively cheap. You know what? On the G2s, I make it a routine practice to replace them.
Danny, what is the symptom when this element is clogged?
Well, if it's clogged up, you'll get back to excessive exhaust pressure.
The back pressure.
Back pressure.
That's the enemy.
So on the G2, it has an exhaust pressure sensor, like we showed on
Correct.
the other video, and it has also an exhaust temperature sensor.
Correct.
Because if the water can't get out, the water accumulates, so the sensor will actually trip over the exhaust pressure and the temperature.
And of course, you have a code. OBD2 code related with this.
Absolutely.
And the OBD2 code should be back pressure or something?
It'll probably tell you exhaust temperature, because they'll give you two ranges. It'll give you excessive pressure or low pressure, and another code for excessive temperature, exhaust temperature, or too low exhaust temperature sensor. There's two codes for that sensor.
All right. Okay, some recommendations when we remove the lower unit in regarding the bolts or something like this?
Yes, well what they do is they have studs.
Those studs.
They have studs.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, and so when you drop the lower unit, in this case, since we don't have a shift rod, we technically use this tool and we'll drop the lower unit down to a certain level, because that shaft
engage over there. That's perfect.
And so what happens is when we do that, we just pull this out a little bit, drop it low enough, change the water pump, put it back together. Correct. So you don't have to undo all these wires.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're done, then you put it right back in the hole.
Exactly.
And you line it right back up.
Over there. All right. Perfect. And what about the material? Is it aluminum?
Yes, this is all aluminum. So Evinrude came up with an idea to keep corrosion down.
Okay.
So if you look, they put bushings around with the stuff, so no metal, two dissimilar metals do not touch.
This is a special
to keep galvanic corrosion from happening.
Correct. Those Teflon bushings. Avoid that the
two different metals.
The aluminum and stainless steel produce pulses corrosion.
Right.